Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday celebration of Spirit here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, where we welcome you wherever you are in your spiritual path. And we're going to get some business taken care of first. If you're parked on this side of the street, beyond this building, I strongly advise you to move your car because you're going to get a probably pretty expensive ticket out in front of the Child Center here of the College of Marin. So if you're parked there, strongly advise that you move just to save yourself some money. There's plenty of parking down here and at the Vanguard, is it? Vanguard Realty, right next door here. And then, of course, across the street and down by the bank and down in there. Rustic Bakery has requested that we don't park right up here because they are dependent on traffic and turnover. So, at any rate, with that, Karen called me on the phone and says, here's Patrick Maier, and you're going to love this guy. And that's all I know, and I'm taking it on faith. Great guy to do sound for. He said, it sounds perfect. So okay, thanks. So anyway, so please stand for the opening song led by Patrick here.
Thank you for having me here, folks. Appreciate it, and I want to say thank you to Karen. Also, I got to say, Karen and I have known each other for probably over 30 years now, when we were both starting out as musicians, playing in clubs and whatnot. And so it's been an interesting journey to watch her musical progression and also her sense of spirituality, and watching her make that move. And I'm very appreciative of her efforts as well. And being in the music business for such a long time, it's easy to become jaded and cynical. And you know, so watching Karen and what she does in the sincerity and truth, I'm very appreciative of what she is. So I just want to say thank you to her first. So this song is going to be called, I know this is the Spark of Creativity. And so here's a song called Love Will Light the Way. Now you have to sing this with me on the chorus, okay? And it's very simple. I was a high school teacher. And I noticed most of these congregations, although this one has more men than women generally that I've seen, so I put it in fairly comfortable female key, okay? So we can sing along, okay? So here's the chorus. You sing with me. Love will light the way. Love will light the way. Again. Love will light the way. One more time. Love will light the way. Now it's me. Here I stand with an open heart, waiting to receive. Spirit's grace will come to me, and this I do believe. Everyone under the sun has the chance to grow ever closer to the truth of what we know. Now we sing it, yeah. Love will light the way. Here we go again. Love will light the way. Looking for a spark inside the dark while I'm kind of feeling low. I find the light inside myself to let my spirit flow. Doesn't matter who you are, everyone can shine. Open up your heart to joy, 'cause we are all divine. Sing it now. I said love will light the way. Talking about love will light the way. Sing it again now. Love will light the way. I said love will light the way. I can feel it shining like a diamond bright. like the sun, like the sun, like the sun. Oh, like the sun, singing to me, love. Love will light the way. What I like you to do is clap with me. Love, love will light the way. Talk about it now, love, yeah. Love will light the way. Don't you know it, love? All right now, love will light. I'm trying to tell you about it, love. Love will light the way. Here we go. Love will light the way.
So, don't get too comfortable, but first turn off your cell phones, please, that we won't interrupt the sacred space that we will be creating here today. And now, greet your neighbors, especially as somebody you don't know. So please take your seats. And get centered as we have the meditation song, followed by our spiritual mind treatment by our platform practitioner, Lori Greer, to take you deeply to your spiritual center.
Can you hear your heartbeat? It's the rhythm of your soul. In the dancing silence, make your mind and body whole. Every living creature in motion and at rest, finding in the stillness Spirit manifest. A flower needs the nighttime to help the blossoms grow true and strong. True and strong. Take a moment to be right here, right now. Take a moment to be right here, right now. Moment to be right here, right now. Moment to be right here, right now. Keeping up with progress, I'm matching the machine. Fumbling for the off switch, jittery from caffeine. How do we keep going, going, going? Everything turned on. Try to find the stillness between the darkness and the dawn. A flower needs the nighttime to help the blossoms grow true and strong. True and strong. take a moment to be right here, right now. Take a moment to be here and now. A moment to be right here, right now. Take a moment to be here and now.
So we take this moment to be right here, right now, in the presence of the one life, the presence of each other, the presence of love. And so dropping down into this sacred space, in this moment right here and now, I recognize the one consciousness that brought forth all of creation. That consciousness is the place that has birthed every star, every grain of sand, every drop of rain, every sunlit space. That consciousness that created me and created all of life. Every person, place, and thing comes from this one place that is divine, that is love, only love. And so opening to this awareness and anchoring into knowing the truth, I claim and call forth an opening for each one that allows for a greater realization and recognition of the beingness of one, of being a part of that goodness that is forever being brought forth in infinite expression, infinite ways that it has become being made manifest through every condition, every relationship, every hardship, every joy, everything that continues to evolve and change in my life is that consciousness that is wanting to expand and to express more fully and completely through me. And I know that this truth I speak is the same for each one, for each person. That this consciousness wants to give more and more of its good into each life. And so I claim for all of us that opening in mind that allows for us to let go of fear and doubt, judgment, opinions, to allow ourselves to simply be the presence, to be the love, to recognize all of the good. So much more good than I can even imagine is available to me right here and now. And so I open and allow for Spirit to just do Spirit's work by waking me up in every situation, waking me up more fully to that realization of the good that is available for me, the expansion for my life. And I know this truth again for each one. And I know that this service today is blessed and that it is the place where we get to anchor more fully into the truth, to expand our awareness, to open to the possibility of something greater than what might be difficult or challenging. More and more good is available right here and now. And so I bless this service. I bless each one who has come here today, knowing that we have our spiritual eyes open, we have our spiritual ears open, and we allow ourselves to receive that truth so that we can shift and change and grow. And so I give thanks for the perfect information, the perfect words being spoken by Reverend Mary, the perfect music that resonates with every fiber, cell, and sinew in my body and every body, to just allow for that experience that is life-changing. And so I give thanks for knowing that this spoken truth has power. And so I let it go and I let God do God's work. And so it is.
I want to take a quick moment to introduce Patrick Maier to you because we've already heard that he's a great guy. But you might want to know a little bit more. He has been a music educator in the Bay Area for nearly 40 years and has been lucky enough to pursue these passions while playing alongside of some of the finest musicians at venues from Tahoe to Monterey to Morocco, or no, Mendocino, not Morocco. Maybe Morocco's next.
I hope so.
He's also an aspiring songwriter reaching for that culmination of inspiration. He lives in Pacifica and is a proud father and grandfather. So let's welcome again to our morning community, Patrick Maier.
So this is a song written for this type of services, and this is a song called "Take Your Seat at the Table," where everybody belongs. And so let's have some fun with it. Here we go. Take your seat at the table. See what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. Take your seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit rebuild. We're looking for answers when times get tough. So many people not getting enough, but there is abundance in this house of prayer. When we finally surrender, then we all share. Take your seat at the table. Look what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. Take your seat at the table. Let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table. Let your spirit rebuild. If you've been looking for wealth untold, you must remember it's spirit that's gold. Love everlasting will nourish your soul. There's more than enough now. Won't you pass that dinner roll? Yeah, take your seat at the table. See what love can provide. If you're willing and able, no more hunger inside. Oh, take your seat at the table. Let your heart shine through. Take your seat at the table now. Let your spirit renew. You don't need no reservation. Bring your truth, that's all that you need. Come and join the celebration. Serving up much more than chicken feed. Yeah, bring your seat at the table. See what love can provide. If you're willing and you're able, no more hunger inside. Yeah, take your seat at the table now. Oh, let your heart be fulfilled. Take your seat at the table now. Let your spirit rebuild. Take your seat at the table now. Let your spirit rebuild. Take your seat at the table now. Let your spirit, yeah. Let your spirit rebuild.
you, Patrick. You know, it's interesting. Every Sunday, when I arrive and we begin to be in the middle of our setup for everything, I find a new technological wrinkle that I haven't addressed. And it always shows up about 5 minutes before everything's supposed to start. So here we are. We're weathering all that and having a good time with it anyway. So thank you for your patience and your presence and your love. Today is our Sunday to welcome our new members. And so we have 2 new members who are joining us today. Yeah, you can applaud for them. And Brandon and Erica, would you grab your candles and your packets and just come on down the center aisle? And let's see, we actually want to put them in the front row. So I think if we can move 3 seats to, we'll put one here and one here. Yeah. So Brandon will be here, Erica will be here. That's perfect. So come on down, you 2. And don't sit down yet, but come on down to the front. And Erica, you'll be right here, and Brandon, you'll be right there. And as we begin with the new members, what happens is we welcome them in a specific way this morning. So Frank, I'm going to have you come up and join me. Our Leadership Council President's going to be part of this as well. And what you'll see as we go through the process is that we're inviting them into our values, vision, and mission for Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. So if you're a member here, this is also an opportunity for you to be reminded and reaffirm, what we're here for. So our core values are what guides us. And they shape our interactions, our consciousness, and our decision-making as a spiritual community. So if you're choosing to commit yourself now to these shared values, I'm going to invite you can look in your program, or you can look up here on the screen, and we'll invite the members to read this with us. These are our core values and generally what we mean by them. So we commit ourselves to the best of our ability. Go ahead and read that with me. We commit ourselves to the best of our ability to these shared values: community, standing together in kindness, and embracing diversity while celebrating human commonality; integrity, living honorably in word and deed from the deepest level of our being; love, experiencing and expressing unconditional acceptance of others and of ourselves. Transformation is coming. Transformation, expanding our experience and awareness of the divine as all life, and spiritual practice, applying spiritual tools and techniques in dedicated, consistent practice to connect with the presence of God in all that is. So this is generally what we've identified as things that are meaningful to us as a community. Now, our mission, our reason for being, it grows out of these core values. And it's the way also that we express them. So the mission is actually the promise that we make to those who come here seeking spiritual community. We're telling them this is what we're offering. So please read this with me. Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living provides, through the teaching and practice of the science of mind, three things, an atmosphere to know the natural home of God is within the heart of every person. The means to practice this awareness with ourselves and each other, and a place to discover this truth about ourselves. We are whole, complete, and perfect, just as we are. This is what we offer to each other. Do you, as new members, pledge to support the mission of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living to the best of your ability? If so, please respond, we do. We do. And our vision statement evolves from our mission. It's the big picture that we're aiming for the future, how we plan to live our values and our mission. So please read this with me. Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living is a home of belonging for spiritual deepening, loving connection, and inner healing. We are here to experience, express, and witness a renewal of the deep, rich, familiar connection between us and God. Do you pledge to participate in the work and play of living the vision statement of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living to the best of your ability? We do. And do you promise to honor your own sacred path and to use the spiritual practices that help you to discover and follow the path so that you can live the life you came to live? We do. So I'm going to turn it over to Frank.
Members are the voice of this spiritual community. You are ambassadors of the Science of Mind teachings in the larger community, and you are the backbone here as the volunteers giving sacred service. You are leaders, inspiring others through your vision and active support of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. Do you promise to uphold and practice these principles in your daily lives? If so, please say, we do. If you have a differing opinion, do you promise to meditate first, think second, and speak last? Do you promise to give of your time, talent, and treasure to this beloved activity known as the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living?
And before I say this last bit, I want to tell all of you that you have a role in this, which is, as I finish this last sentence, you need to stomp and cheer and jump up and down, okay? So this is it. You have pledged your commitment to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living and to its values, mission, and vision. You've pledged your time, talent, and treasure to its expansion and growth, and we are delighted and honored to welcome you as new members of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living with all the rights, responsibilities, and privileges of that membership. Bravo! Woo! 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 Please come up. Erica, welcome to membership. And Brandon, welcome to membership. We're delighted to have you. And you could go ahead and switch your candles off and just leave them under your chair. They're going to go back to our practitioners, but they switch off underneath. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are delighted to have you. And you will be seeing Erica and Brandon on the Sunday team coming up. So some Sundays when you arrive, you're going to be seeing them, greeting you and saying hello and pouring coffee and handing out programs and all that lovely stuff. And we can't wait to put them to work. So welcome. We are in huzzah consciousness today around welcoming newcomers. And because of that, the title for today is Sparking Creativity. And we're in the midst of this year where we're looking at both ancient teachings and new technology, really, in spirituality. So both timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. And this month, I've dubbed the title for this month, Please Hold for Guidance. And so what we know when we're holding for guidance is that sometimes it comes quickly and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's not. And so today, we're speaking of sparking imagination. And so what I wanted to do, what I thought I was going to do, was collect your favorite jokes, all of your favorite jokes, and flip through them and choose like the 3 or 4 best ones and spontaneously create a talk up here based on the spiritual and metaphysical teachings embedded in that joke. Because I believe that jokes and stories are what we're built for, really. We, as human beings, always from forever, have liked stories and parables and jokes and fables. And those things give us some little bit of information. Now, the great thing about a joke is that it engages, it keeps your attention. If it's funny enough, you might actually remember it. And in remembering it, you might remember what it's linked to. But unfortunately, no one sent me any jokes. And what I was trying to do, of course, was avoid riddles, because I don't find them that funny, really. So the only thing I got was a bunch of riddles from somebody, which is why I said later in the emails, no riddles and no puns, please. I'll leave the puns to Reverend Edward. He's great with those. But that told me several things. The fact that I didn't get any jokes from you told me several things. One was that maybe you're not good at remembering jokes or telling jokes, and so you don't have a favorite one. Or you thought your joke was off color and therefore not appropriate, which was probably true. Or you don't read the emails, so you never knew I asked you for them. All of those things are possible. But I decided that I wanted to do this anyway. So I went through and looked at all of my favorite jokes, and I have a lot of them. Because as you know, I always like to start off the talk with a joke. But instead of doing that today, I thought what I would do is talk a little bit about why something is funny in the first place, and give some examples of what funniness does, and then tell you some things that metaphysically can be carried out by jokes, and then tell you some jokes to do that. Okay, so now I've told you what I'm going to do, now I'll do it. So one of the things that becomes funny in a story is when arrogance is punished. We like to identify with the non-arrogant person who is commenting on the situation. And when somebody deserves some sort of correction and we see it happen, we find it satisfying. So in some tales, that becomes funny because the whole situation lends itself to humor. But at the same time, what that does is it lets us know that arrogance attracts correction from the universe. And so it helps us to remember that if we're being a little bit arrogant or overconfident about something, maybe we want to back up into a little more humility. Okay, does that make sense? Hello, yes? Okay, good, good. All right. The other thing that's very entertaining is a combination of innocence and or ignorance. When somebody makes an assumption about something, but they're wrong, sometimes what happens can be very funny. Either it's funny from us observing it from the outside, or it's funny being in the midst of it. So innocence, children and their interpretations of the world, or adults doing things that children would normally do, can become funny when we watch. Also, another thing that becomes funny is when we can relate to the person's behavior. So the person is embarrassed by something they've done, and we could see how they maybe could have done it better, and at the same time we relate to that embarrassment and to what they've done, so we might laugh at that. And the other thing that gets our attention and makes us laugh is surprise endings. So things that we assume are going in a particular direction that suddenly flip around at the end become funny when we're not expecting that to happen. I had an acting teacher once who said, if you're showing a film and you see a close-up of a beautiful woman in a gorgeous dress walking down a spiral staircase, and then the shot goes to the banana peel at the bottom of the staircase, and then it goes back to the woman and back to the banana peel, and back to the woman. If she reaches the bottom of the steps and does not slip on the banana peel at that point, we hate her. Because it's been set up for us that there is a disaster in the making of some humorous proportions, and we're ready for it. We're set up for it. So when we have a setup like that, and we're ready for a particular ending, and then it offers us something different, but even better or equally funny, then we really laugh because we've been surprised. So in timeless stories, you find, hello? Someone is being paged from the universe. Tell them that we're online and they can come and join us there. So the timeless stories show up in every spiritual tradition. 1/3 of Jesus' teachings were parables. 1/3, that's a lot. And so we also find Jewish teaching stories. We find the Nasruddin stories that show up in Hinduism and Islam. We find Aesop's fables. In the beginning, religion and theater were the same thing. So in the Greek tradition, the plays of comedy and tragedy, those were entertaining, but they were also there to teach lessons to the people, to give them life lessons, as well as to entertain them. So we find that stories are built in to us. We tell stories about our lives and ourselves all the time. We tell stories about other people's lives. Sometimes that's called gossip. We relate family stories over and over again to our kids. We tell them fairy tales. We read them Bible stories. So stories from the time that we're the youngest become one of our vehicles for learning stuff and for testing it out and applying it in the world. They are memorable. They tend to engage us in such a way that we set aside our skepticism and our defensiveness, if you will, so that we can relate to the characters in the story without personally feeling accused of anything. We feel the truth or the value that's embedded in those stories. And we then learn to remember because of those. So when we see the timeless truths, we begin to get these examples. So let me give you some examples. This first one, I have 2 stories for, and I'll tell you the moral afterwards, all right? First story. In a small Texas town, Drummond's Bar began construction on a new building to increase their business. The local Baptist church started a campaign to block the bar from opening with petitions and prayer services, and work progressed right up until the week before the opening, when lightning struck the bar and it burned to the ground. The church folks were rather smug in their outlook after that, until the bar owner sued the church on the grounds that the church was ultimately responsible for the demise of his building through direct and indirect actions or other means. The church vehemently denied all responsibility or any connection to the building's demise in its reply to the court. As the case made its way to court, the judge looked over the paperwork, and at the hearing he commented with interest, "I don't know how I'm going to decide this, but it appears from the paperwork that we have a bar owner who believes in the power of prayer and an entire church congregation that does not." Here's an example of the correction to arrogance, right? It comes. Here's another one. A shepherd was tending his flock in a field when a new sports car screeched to a stop on the road nearby in a cloud of dust. And the driver, a young man in expensive designer clothes and sunglasses, leans out of the window and shouts over to the shepherd, "If I tell you exactly how many sheep you have, can I have one?" Shepherd looks up slowly at the young man, and he looks at his peaceful flock, calmly says, "Sure, why not?" So the young man steps out of his car, holding a state-of-the-art smartphone, with which he proceeds to connect to a series of websites, first calling up a satellite navigation system to pinpoint his location, and then keying in the location to generate an ultra-high resolution of the field. And after emailing the photo to an image processing analysis, the processed data is returned, which he then feeds into an online database and enters the parameters for a report. And within another few seconds, a miniature printer in the car produces a full-color report containing several pages of analysis and results. And the young man studies the data for a few more seconds and then returns to the shepherd. "You have exactly 1,586 sheep, including 3 rams and 722 lambs." "That's right," says the shepherd, mildly impressed. "Well, I guess that means you get to take one of my sheep." And the young man makes his choice and loads the animal into the back seat of his car, at which the shepherd says, almost as an afterthought, "Hey there, if I can tell you what your business is, will you give me back my sheep?" The young man, feeling confident, agrees. "You're a consultant," says the shepherd. "Wow, that's right," says the young man. "How did you guess that?" "No guessing required," answered the shepherd. "You showed up here, even though nobody called you. You took a fee for giving me an answer that I already know to a question I never asked, and you know nothing about my business. Now give me back my dog. Did you catch that last line? Now give me back my dog. So arrogance invites the universe to offer correction. And that is important for us to know, because even though these stories are funny, the metaphysical truth behind it is still the truth. Arrogance invites correction. And whether that correction comes from somebody else or from the universe in some kind of general way, it tends to attract that kind of response. So watch out for arrogance when we're starting to feel arrogance. Now, another thing that we find humorous and instructive, too, can be innocence. Yes? Innocence or ignorance of something. So, this novice fisherman really wanted to go ice fishing. He had seen many books on the subject, and finally, after gathering all the necessary tools, he made for the nearest frozen lake. And after positioning a comfy camp stool, he started to make a circular cut in the ice. And suddenly, from the sky, a voice boomed, "There are no fish under the ice." Well, startled, the fisherman moved further down the ice, poured a hot drink from a thermos flask, began to cut yet another hole. And again, from the heavens, the voice bellowed, "There are no fish under the ice." The fisherman, now quite worried, moved way down to the opposite end of the ice, set up a camp stool, tried again to cut a hole. And the voice came once again, even louder this time. "I said there are no fish under the ice." The fisherman stopped, looked skyward and said, "Is that you, Lord?" The voice replied, "No, this is the ice rink manager." Now, here's the important thing to know about innocence and ignorance, and that is that the creative law does not have a sense of humor. So it is available to no exceptions whatsoever. Just because we don't understand that creative law is acting upon our beliefs does not mean the creative law stops working or gives us a pass. Just because we don't realize that we have a set of beliefs underlying that are causing us to make a choice that's ridiculous or unreasonable doesn't mean that creative law gives us a pass or a mulligan. We still get to experience the natural consequences of that choice or that behavior. And sometimes what happens when that happens to us is we begin to rethink that belief or that decision or that assumption that got us into trouble. And that's the whole point of creative law, is to basically say to us, "Good job, how do you like this result?" Or, "What do you think of this? You want to rethink this? Maybe this isn't working quite so well." So it's important for us to remember that creative law is always active, and our refusal to believe in it doesn't mean that it isn't going to operate according to its natural way of being. Does this make sense? Okay. Third, when we do something to try and control other people's responses to us in order to make it more convenient for us or easier, a convenience lie like that, it still has consequences. So they do not always work to bring about that ease. Anybody ever watch sitcoms? Amanda and I have this thing of watching some reruns of old sitcoms at night before we go to sleep in the evening. We've several times now watched all of Frasier, all of Friends, Cheers, Mad About You, you name it, all those old series. Now, one of the things that is consistent, that comes up again and again in those, is that somebody chooses not to tell the truth in order to make something more convenient. And it never works in a sitcom. It always blows up, always. So there's a lesson in that for us, which is that those little convenient lies, they're actually going to get us into trouble one way or another. Here's a story. I had just moved from an apartment to a house in my same small town. And one day at the grocery store, I used the last of my personalized checks bearing my old address. The cashier examined the document and asked if everything on it was correct, and I assured her that it was. And she started to put the check in the cash drawer. Now, why would you not tell the cashier that that's no longer your correct address? Because, then you'd have to correct it on the check and show your ID. Hopefully that had already been changed. So just to skip over all that inconvenience, this person simply said, oh yes, it's all correct, right? So she started to put the check in the cash drawer, but then she inquired again if everything was accurate. Why do you ask? I responded. Because, she replied, my husband and I moved into this apartment yesterday and I don't remember seeing you at breakfast. Yeah, a convenient lie that completely turned around on the person who was offering it. So convenience sometimes can trip us up. Taking a shortcut around dealing authentically with somebody usually has some kind of negative consequence, maybe not in the moment. And so it's important for us to remember that convenience is not necessarily the most important thing. Sometimes it's okay to take the time to engage genuinely with somebody else. And then lastly, of course, so we've done the arrogance invites correction. We've done creative law has no exceptions, and small lies have consequences. And finally, this one. And this has to do with making assumptions and unclear communication. Anybody here ever have an experience of unclear communication? Either somebody communicated something to you unclearly, so you did the wrong thing, or you communicated to somebody what you thought was clear, but they didn't do what you expected. Anybody ever experienced that? Yeah, it's very common, right? A truck driver was on his way to deliver 100 penguins to the zoo, to the New York Zoo, when his truck broke down on the freeway. And he got out of the cab, was looking at the engine, when a second truck driver stopped and asked if he needed any help. And the driver explained that he was taking the penguins to the zoo and asked if the other man would take the penguins for him. And he agreed. Well, some hours later, the second truck driver drove past the first one, who was still waiting on the freeway for help to come. The penguins, however, were still on the second truck. I thought you were going to take those penguins to the zoo for me, shouted the first driver. I did, the second driver shouted back, but I had some money left over, so now we're going to the movies. An unexpected twist at the end of a story makes it funnier, but also illuminates what happens when our communication isn't clear. Now, this not only is true with each other, it's also true with the universe. Creative law doesn't have a sense of humor, it's very literal. So unless we're clear, we may produce a result that was different than what we hoped for, wanted, or expected. The universe is unpredictable, especially when we are not clear about something. So when we do our prayer work, one of the things we teach our students is to be clear. Not clear in the sense of saying it has to be this exact house or this exact partner or this exact job, because those things will get you into trouble. But rather to direct them toward what do they want to feel? Because the feeling that we want to experience can come to us in any number of different ways. So when we're specific about the experience we want to have, the universe then can go and find all the ways to bring that experience to us, and it might show up in ways that are different than what we expected. Does this make sense? Okay, so the process of all this means that the goal of teaching stories is to move us to a different place or a different perspective, to wake us up to something. When we laugh, we open up. We make space where there wasn't necessarily space before. It also increases the ease of memory and the likelihood that we'll remember something. That's a usefulness to a teaching story. So today's lessons, there are 3 of them. Arrogance invites correction. Yes? Creative law is always consistent, no matter what we believe. Small lies are not necessarily protective. And the universe is unpredictable, especially when we are unclear. And our founder, Ernest Holmes, had this comment to make about stories. He said, religion is man's idea of God, and the Bible is a written declaration of the belief in God held by a great race of people, the Jews. It is in many respects the greatest book ever written and does truly point a way to eternal values, but it is only one explanation and cannot be considered the only light on religion, for there are many others which, taken together, weave the story of truth into a complete and unified pattern. The story of truth. When we go on a spiritual quest, what we're doing is we're looking for the story of truth. Where do those threads overlap? Where do they touch our hearts? Where do they wake us up? Where do they relate to our lives? That's what makes spiritual teaching alive for us. And so, if you look at the parables of Jesus, which are 1/3 of the written information that we have about Jesus, the Gospel of Luke has 24 parables in it, and 18 of them are unique. That is, those particular parables don't appear in any other gospel. The Gospel of Matthew has 23, and 11 of those are unique. Mark has only 8, and 2 of those are unique, and the Gospel of Thomas has 16, 3 of which are unique. So that means that there are 34 completely unique parables sprinkled throughout those teachings, and there are about 13 that are repeated in 1 or 2 of those places. Clearly, teaching stories were part of what Jesus was into, and part of what kept his people engaged and helped them learn the lessons that he was trying to put across. The Gospel of John, interestingly, has no parables, none at all. And what we know about St. John, or the particular Gospel of St. John, is that it was the last one written of the 4 main Gospels. It was written quite a long time, like 85 years after Jesus had died. Probably was not really written by the Apostle John, the one of the disciples, but may have been written down from things that he said. But it was written at a time when Christians were being persecuted to the death. So the Gospel of John was written for a very different purpose than the ones that came before. Each one of the ones that came before were written for a particular audience. So the Gospel of Matthew, which has a lot, or the Gospel of Mark rather, which has a lot of stuff in Aramaic in it, was written to the Jews. The Gospel of Luke, who was a Gentile and never knew Jesus but followed St. Paul around, he wrote in Greek to the people who were converts, who were not Jews. The Gospel of Matthew was written to more educated Jews. He was, they say, a tax collector, somebody who was writing at a higher level of professionalism. But the Gospel of John was written to help people who were being persecuted and killed to stay faithful to this faith that they had pledged their lives to encourage them, to give them support, to give them a sense of community, and to let them know that they would be rewarded even if they were persecuted and killed in the process, and to hang in there. So he didn't use stories. He used statements, absolute statements that could be relied upon like bedrock. I am the light of the world. I am the vine, you are the branches. No one comes to the Father but through me. All of those anchoring on Jesus' statements come out of the Gospel of John. And it was to help the people maintain their faith in a really difficult time. So stories are what we use when we have time. When we have time to develop an idea with people and get to know them. In our traditions, we tell ghost stories around the campfire, right? We tell family stories at family gatherings or at wakes. We tell them where we have time. But when people are in a hurry and it's a crisis, you don't generally take the time to tell a story. So we have only technical crises this morning, and so we could go ahead and enjoy the process of some of these stories. I want to then invite you to remember to tell stories. You might not be good at telling jokes. You don't have to tell jokes. Tell stories. Tell your children stories about their family. That's how they learn what their history is. Tell your family stories that they don't know about you. Encourage them to tell stories that other people don't know about them. When you have memorials or funeral services, tell stories not everybody already knows about the person who has passed. In that way, we anchor more deeply into our humanness. So this week, I'm going to make a prediction that you will have an opportunity to tell a story. And I want you to, if you're not inclined to generally do that, to take a breath and tell the story. And know that it does not have to be perfectly told to accomplish what it's there for, what it has arisen in your awareness for. Okay? So I'm going to invite you to stand with me now and join me in the morning affirmation. As I witness life around me and breathe it in, I am awakened to its beauty and lovely complexity. I'm inspired. My imagination and curiosity come alive in divine delight. Yes, in divine delight. And so now, just remain standing for a moment while we anchor this in a brief prayer. So let's know in this moment that we are beings who are created out of an infinite presence with infinite stories, infinite expressions, infinite beingness. And the stories of our being are anchored right into our bodies and our minds, our hearts, and our emotions. We allow these stories to live in us as a part of that divine presence, knowing that they arise to be told in the moment that divine presence is moving to deliver a message. So we open our minds and hearts to hearing stories, to considering stories, to telling stories, and to living our stories in love. We know that the infinite within us delights in this creative sparking of expression. And so we take hold of it this week with enthusiasm and delight. And so it is. And you can go ahead and be seated. So if you're already thinking of stories to tell, find somebody over coffee that you can tell a story to. This is coming into the time of the story of a sacred offering. Now, here's what I believe about offerings. When we do an offering, we're called to share what comes from our own abundance outward, and to let it then remind us that we are abundantly cared for by the universe. So if you want to text to make a donation today, you can do that easily by following those directions up there on the screen. And the other thing we want to do is we want to bless everything that's been given to us in this past week, and also what's being given this morning. So I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward as we get ready to bless the offering that's received here in this room. And let's bless what we're giving and what we have given this week by saying this together. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. And take it away, Patrick.
Thank you. I just want to say I love the use of technology that you're using here. This is fairly progressive for a church. It's pretty good. And I just want to point out that because I was a high school teacher, and last few years, it was very evident the impact of cell phones on young people. So it was often difficult to see what was going on and not sound like the old guy complaining about it, which I try to keep an open mind. But I do want to say that using these tools helps people, I believe, ultimately, and that we have to have trust, especially I feel trust that the young people that I specifically was working with, they will find value, and we need to work alongside them to create what we need to for ourselves. They're really good. I mean, the young people I was teaching were, for for the most part, really wonderful people, and I have faith that they're going to make their way through it, just like I see you guys making your way through it as well.
Thank you.
So here's a song called The Grand Scheme of Things, and we're talking about spark of imagination, and oftentimes we get overwhelmed and our ego gets caught up in things, and we realize we have to have some humility to find ourselves, and when we surrender to that, then we truly can discover the messages that are coming to us. So
My screen just said hello. My computer is doing something back there all by itself.
that's exactly what we thought, right? So this is in the grand scheme of things. I might seem quite small, but the love inside my heart makes me stand 10 feet tall. In the grand scheme of things, I know where I belong. In my time and in my place, I am loved, and the world so divine unfolds in all its glory. The order of divinity revealed in the grand scheme of things. I am part of the plan of God's guiding hand to the truth, to the truth. In the grand scheme of things, I keep God in my heart, and in my mind that's where I start to find joy, sweet joy, and God's plan so divine, unfolding through all time, guides me like a shining star to home. Oh, I feel the love light burning design. Oh, I feel the love light burning divine. Oh, I feel the love light burning divine. Oh, I feel the love light burning divine. Yes, I do, yes, I do, yes, I do. Love is holy. Yes, it is, yes, it is. Now, 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 now. Love is all right now. Can you stand up, folks? Can you stand up? I'm going to have you actively work with me. And you can put your hands together and yeah. We sing, I am holy. Yes, I am now. I am holy. Holy, yeah. I am singing now. I am holy now. I am holy. It's going to be a test here because I'm going to stop playing and see if we can keep time. So keep that clapping going. I know you're up for it. Here we go. And we sing it now. I am holy, holy. I am holy, holy. Sing it now. I am, oh yeah, I am
Holy. Woo!
Sing it now, holy.
I am.
Yes, I am now. I am holy. Yes, I am now. I am holy. One more time now. I am Yes, I am. Everybody singing now. Hey, all right. Thank you. Nice job, people. Nice job. Thank you.
Ah, yes. Thank you, thank you. So we do now, all of us together, accept this offering with gratitude, knowing that it sustains all of Golden Gate, everywhere that it goes, and we bless it to do that good everywhere from this room and this moment on. And so it is. All right. Now, if you're here with us for the very first time this morning, I want to let you know that we are running along, and that's because we did our new member session this morning. But I think that some of you have already received welcome packets. If not, back on the welcome table, right straight back there are welcome packets with information about us, and you're going to find in the welcome packet this blue card that says welcome. If you fill it out and take it back to that welcome table, we will give you a little book as our gift and thank you for being here with us this morning. So we hope that you'll come back and be with us often in the future. And I want to thank everybody who had anything to do with making this morning come together, because as you know, we do a lot of bustling before the service starts. And these are all the bustlers who helped this morning come about. So I want to thank all of them. I want to give them a round of applause. Some of these names are wrong. I'm just doing the best I can as I go. By the way, I want to remind you, I don't know if you are fully aware of our heart-to-heart pastoral care team, but if you need rides to appointments, to doctor's appointments, if you need a pickup or a ride because you're going to have a procedure or a surgery, if you need meals delivered, if you need a phone call, if you need a referral to a practitioner or a prayer, call our heart-to-heart team. If you or somebody you know needs that support. I don't need to do this while I'm on camera. Now you can see me in my whole face. Call or email, and you can contact them on the email under resources on the website too. You'll see Heart to Heart there as well. Also, I want to thank you for wearing your mask, everybody, this morning. You'll know that we have masks and hand sanitizer out at the front every week, with also some handouts for the best ways to wear your mask, and we really appreciate you doing that. So we will continue to do that until there's some kind of change in the mandate. Also coming up is the fall class, the foundations class with me and Suzanne Dubois and Rachel DePaula, who's over at our prayer table this morning. And we're going to be teaching this 10-week class beginning the 21st of September. It's on Zoom, so nobody has to worry about commuting or cutting your dinner short or anything like that. You can register for this class now. There's an early bird price until the first week of September. And you can do that on the website or by contacting our administrator at ggcsl.org. Also, next Sunday is our Quick Start free workshop on Zoom with Marilyn Letzos, one of our prayer practitioners, from 12:30 to 2:30. You can email the office, our administrator at ggcsl.org to register, so you get the Zoom link and the handouts in advance. Now, those of you that have been part of the service online know that we were doing a coffee conversation and connection on Zoom together following the service on Sundays, which we've discontinued temporarily. But those of you that are still out there in internet land, we're working to reinstitute that in September so that you can chat with the people who are here and they can chat with you. So we'll see if we can't get that together, and we'll keep you posted on that process as we get a little bit closer. And I want to remind you that the September issue of the Science of Mind magazine is available now for $4.95 plus tax. I think we have them at the practitioner table. And they've got the total and everything. If you write them a check, they don't have change, but they can sell you one of those, which you'll have with a daily guide for every day during the month. Also, want to remind you, you can put in a written prayer request or ask for a prayer at the prayer table. If it's before the service or during the service, you can put in a written request. Afterwards, the practitioners who are over here are available to do brief prayers with you. And they'll take you to the prayer space downstairs and do that, so it's a more private space. But please take advantage of that so that you never need to leave with a heavy heart. And I'm going to invite you guys to bring the box over to me and practitioners to surround the room as we go ahead and prepare for the closing prayer now. If you put in a prayer request into the box, by the way, the practitioners pray over it for the full week. So once you put it in here, it's in prayer. So let's know together right now that every request that's in this box is already in the mind of God. That every prayer request that is in one of our hearts and has not yet been written down or spoken is known in the mind of God. That one mind is everywhere, always, infinitely present, and absolutely loving. Breathe into it. And let ourselves be loved in this moment, where all prayer requests are known. Opening to receiving the responses, the resolution, the healing, the guidance and direction that we're needing to respond to those situations in love. We're grateful to know this presence permeates this space, this box, the written requests, and everything in our minds and hearts, even those requests that at this moment we've forgotten to make. We let these prayers, all of them, go into the divine creative law to be resolved and healed and more brought forward into our awareness. And we let them go into the infinite presence of love, that one mystery that knows all, where they are already whole, complete, and perfect in the mind of God and always have been. So we let this prayer go in love now, knowing that it is done. We let it go and we let it be in gratitude. And together we say, and so it is. Yes. And please stand now and join us for the benediction and the closing song. Now, normally, we take hands when we get to the benediction, and we can't quite do that yet. So what I'm going to invite you to do is to take your right hand and to place it on the shoulder of the person standing to your right, if there is one. And if not, just absorb the blessing and pass it on. All right, as we say this together. I now walk so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. And go ahead and lead us in the closing.
So we're going to sing that song, Stand.
Oh, great, okay.
Right? You know this one?
We do.
Karen told me.
Yes,
Don't
we
let
do.
Karen down. Let there
Be
be
peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for
love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Yeah, let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now. Again, we are making a new world now.